Mrs. Angleton from 4th grade class. She taught us so much about businesses. Well, number one, she taught us that talking too loud drew attention and detention. 2, failing on a quiz wasn't really a great way to prepare for the exam, although it was motivational. Number 3, when she didn't know something, it did not help when she tried to cover it up. She knew she was wrong, and so did we. And number 4, you have to burn off some energy at recess to be productive. It's universal. In today's episode, we are taking you back to the classroom to think about how there are fundamentally 3 different ways to learn because of the subject, because of the student, and because of the environment. We're going to break them down in terms of a customer experience. And I don't want to go back to school. My partner super recently took a class. I take that back. I don't want to go back to like college, to being a full-time student. I do know that like recently I took like a one-off class, and that was fun because I was spending, my own money, and I was more motivated than when I was just in high school. That having been said, the process of going to 7 classes in a row and going home and having to do homework is a nightmare.
I disagree. If I could go to a good college and just dedicate myself to like learning, I think that would be awesome. Because when I was younger, I was working, I was partying, like I was just getting by. But now I'm at an age where I really realize I like to learn. And so I think it would be cool. I mean, obviously, I don't want to do the basics. I want to do higher level learning. But I think that would be, I walk on like Rice campus and I'm like, oh, this is amazing,
So, James, if we do a Never Been Kissed episode where you go back, obviously you're not going to date. You're just going back to pretend to be a freshman.
I'm going back Billy Madison style, and I'm going to play dodgeball with the junior high kids and crush them,
destroy them.
Yes,
that would be nice.
Yeah, maybe even 4th graders. I have no morals when it comes to dodgeball.
If I had to go back to school and I jumped into 4th grade, I would absolutely wreck everyone. I would be so much more advanced than everyone,
Yeah, I know. Like I'd be like at a 6th or 7th grade level.
I'd be reading at a 7th grade level. It would be so impressive.
I can see you guys going back and just like terrorizing your classmates and just like, oh man.
I would just look. What I would be shooting for is that gold star. I want that gold star sticker, and I'd want to be named student of the day. But learning is fun. That was something that I had to. Like the structure of learning and the structure of being quizzed and having exams was extremely anxiety inducing, but learning is great. And doing it, like today, we're going to talk about the 5 principles of learning, right? What do we call it?
5 laws of learning.
5 laws of learning. So it's an actual law. And I think each of them are pretty applicable to how digestible the learning process is for people. What type of we've talked about this before. What type of learners are y'all? How do you learn things?
So I definitely don't learn the way the normal school teaches, right? Like I'm not a hear it, learn it. Like I have to like ingest it. I've got to see it. I got to write it.
So multiple.
Yeah, I cannot.
That's how everybody is, honestly. That's
not how my son is. He hears the stuff and then he goes and gets an A. I'm like, how?
But so there's not a difference. The old theory behind there's auditory learners, visual learners, and kinesthetic. That's all been research has blown that out of the water. They're really
okay.
That is not really a thing. The difference is motivation.
Motivation.
Your son wants to learn that stuff and demonstrate. That's why he's hearing it, and that's why he can hear it, remember it, because it's important to him on some level.
On some level, yeah.
I think there's truth to that. But I think, so, recently there's been this huge surge of people self-diagnosing themselves with attention deficit disorder. And I feel like it is slightly different. There can be something that I am super interested in and is super important to me. And the moment someone gets the 3rd sentence in, my mind will start to say, okay, what's going on right now?
Oh my gosh, just like the listeners of this podcast.
Yeah, so they zone out. And so, well, the listeners of every podcast. I mean, sometimes you just have a podcast on in the background.
I have a friend that listens to the bounce rate specifically. She says she listens to it to go to sleep.
So nice of them. But the point.
Hey, I'm just glad we're helping her achieve something in her life.
Yeah, we'll find our niche.
Yeah, but I
white
would
noise.
I would submit that for me, it doesn't sink in. Like, yeah, sure, I have to hear someone explain it, but it does not sink in until I physically doing it. If someone's like, all right, so first you're going to do this, then you're going to do this. By the third step, I'm struggling to get in there. It's way easier for me to actually just like, number one, do it. Number two, do it.
So I think that that's more around the subject matter than the learning style. So take the difference between studying to be a CPA versus to be a race car driver.
This is the academic talking.
Well, they're different subjects and they relate differently. So with being a race car driver, yeah, there's a lot of academic. I mean, it's not just drive fast, turn to left, as South Park so eloquently put it. There is tons of egghead knowledge, science, and so forth in being a race car driver. But ultimately, it is about doing. You have to physically do it. No amount of preparation can prepare you to drive a race car at 170 miles an hour around those curves, except doing it. Being a CPA, I can tell you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say confirm and slightly critique, because when I was going to business school and I was taking accounting classes, I would be like, okay, this is accounting, and I need to learn this. I did not feel motivated to do accounting until I had my own business. And then I was like, oh, this is not a struggle. I need to do this accounting because it's real. I always had a problem with hypothetical problems because I'm like, well, this is all pretend anyway. When I was actually doing the thing, and that's hard because it's like, well, if that's the case, then you just need to be an intern for everything. But you're correct in that there must be a balance. There has to be a point to where you practice it before you actually do it for real.
So I'm not sure we're saying the same thing. It seems what I hear you're talking about, like your motivation to learn, and so you don't really start processing on something unless you can see how you can apply it to something. So accounting, because accounting is accounting. T account, I mean, you may not get gotten that far into your business because you may not need it, but debits and credits and balances and how this moves around and owner equity and all that stuff. I mean, those are concepts that you have to have in your head and that are abstract. There is no physical representation of owner equity.
No, well, I guess I'm just talking about like homework. Just like saying,
so
all right,
for you to go learn it and do it and apply it and process it internally, right? You had to have some concrete application to get you excited to go do it. Basically, then it made you, That's very different though than talking about teaching a kid to drive a car or somebody to fly a plane. Because at the end of the day, there are going to be some kids that can just hold that abstract, that are interested. They're puzzle solvers. Well, and they want to hold that abstraction in their head, and that's fine. In accounting, I can do that. We can talk about it all abstractly, and then they can go take a test and ace it. You cannot ace flying unless you do it physically.
Let me ask this, because I do not have a child. Do kids zone out anymore? Is it worse now than it used to be, you think?
I mean,
same amount?
They zone out, like, of course, some more than others. You know what I mean? Like, I've got a space cadet as one kid, and then another one is not so much. But yeah, I mean, the phones changed everything, but I don't know if it's.
You think it's probably similar?
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife still teaches. She teaches teenagers, high school. I don't know that I'd say that from what she's told me, I don't think that people are zoning out is probably a little different now. It's probably staring at your phone mindlessly scrolling.
Sure.
Yeah.
As opposed to, we didn't have a phone. I couldn't, when I was in school and I zoned out, I was just staring at the wall and then I was falling asleep.
How much I miss those times.
I wish I could go back to college.
It would be cool. I will say this. I would like to spend a couple of days in the 80s as an adult just to remember, just to see what it would be like to not have to constantly check my cell
leather
phone.
zipper jackets. That's what it was like.
Yeah, you were always
Leotards,
there was always
jazzercise.
I think you're just talking about Michael Jackson.
I will say this though, I did learn something about education because I did not apply myself very well to education, and in the end, if you fast forward, I mean, I feel like I ran a business, I provided for a family, and now I'm at this amazing company.
Yeah, you speak good,
and I feel like I'm doing great, but I feel like I look back at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, if you just focus on school, it makes it so much easier. The path just becomes easier, right? And I think you could apply that to business too, where best practices, learning things, just do the work.
Yeah.
And everything becomes so much easier. Of course you can be successful without it, but you just make it a harder path. Does that make sense?
The applicability of what is taught in school is very hard for a lot of kids to see. I think that's when I hear people say, "Oh yeah, the way we're taught in school doesn't work for me," I almost always think that it's a challenge of, as the student going up through, they didn't see how this would apply to them.
Yeah.
I think it's such an interesting thing. I don't know where I kind of got, it wasn't necessarily from my family, but for whatever reason, I was very much one of those kids that wanted to learn all sorts of different stuff. And I wanted to study, philosophy and history and math and all those things, even if I didn't want to demonstrate it and do well on tests. I mean, I almost failed out of English. I can't tell you how many times because I was a terrible writer. I didn't want to check my work. I loved discussing this stuff. When I'm looking at AI, and I just recently I personally have had a lot of exposure to AI concepts and things that they're trying to do and kind of cutting edge with marketing stuff. I think that desire to learn everything and think that anything that's out there that can be learned is worth learning is probably the single most important skill you can have going forward. Because if you don't have that kind of breadth, AI is not going to work as well for you as it does for other people.
I see what you're saying.
Because you'll go in, you'll say, solve this problem, ChatGPT. It'll solve it, and then you have no way to evaluate it.
Yeah. ChatGPT, and that's the thing with AI. We've reached a point where there's this, I guess, master's degree level assistant that everyone has, and so there's going to be this line of, do you stop learning here and let this reference thing do all your thinking, or do you learn how the reference machine works and it becomes your personal assistant?
What we're going to see is that you won't have talking about how applicable it is to your life. There aren't going to be jobs where all I do is go get the AI answer and move on.
Yeah.
Because if that's your job, is just going and being the person. So did you guys see Galaxy Quest?
Yeah.
With Sigourney Weaver? You haven't seen it? Oh, with Tim Allen and Sigourney Weaver and Monk. What's
Alan
his name?
Rickman and Tony
Alan
Shalhoub.
Rickman. It's an awesome movie.
Sam
It's a parody of Star Trek.
Okay.
Anyway, at one point, Sigourney Weaver is talking to the computer. They're having this meeting. It's a crisis. The aliens.
Can I explain?
Yeah.
So basically, they played a washed up cast of an old Star Trek type movie.
Okay.
And it turns out that there are aliens that have been watching that movie and crafted their entire society around it. So they abduct the cast because they need them to help them with a certain intergalactic problem. So it's this cast of washed up actors trying to operate a Star Trek level spaceship.
Awesome. It does sound like a great...
exactly off of the show.
So
everything works exactly like, so the cast actually has to go back and like rewatch episodes to know
how do we do that?
Yeah. So
That's
at one point
hilarious.
in the show, they're having this meeting, they're asking the computer like, how much fuel do we have and so forth. So the captain, Tim Allen, will say, okay, how much fuel we have, and Sigourney Weaver, computer, how much fuel do we have? And then the computer responds. And then they says, okay, what is our shield strength? And she'll say, computer, what is our shield? And somebody says, what? You're just repeating. She says, I have one job and I'm going to damn well do it. And that is repeating the question to the computer. That AI job is not going to exist.
Yeah.
We are not going to have this. So if you can't take what comes out of AI and analyze it, place it into the context, evaluate it, judge it, you're not going to have a job.
I think that's
so that's where studying Plato is important, because you don't know when that's good, that one piece of information is going to actually come true. Studying history is going to be important, because I need to know how these things work in context. How do people, in understanding that stuff.
Critical thinking, being able to say, all right, how does this generative answer, what
I have to evaluate it.
Yeah, what part of this generation what is not a good answer? Even
if all I'm trying to do from it is just execute, because a lot, right now at least, ChatGPT cannot run my burger restaurant.
Yeah,
I mean, I still have to actually serve the burger, but asking it questions, seeing how I should run the back of house, how I should market, I've got to be able to evaluate those.
ChatGPT, the customer says they want triple patty with cheese. Do I do that?
That's a great question, James.
ChatGPT,
You're
the customer's upset. They want...
Yeah, you're right. Extra patties does make it more delectable.
Oh boy. So we're going to talk about the 5 laws of learning.
Yes. So I was a teacher. That's how I met my wife. I've also taught. I was a flight instructor. I've been a ski instructor. I did a very tiny little bit of improv coaching under some direct supervision.
We'll do more.
We'll do more. Anyway, so I've got some good experience in teaching, but I'm going to give you the 5 laws. This is what, and I want you to relate these. So these are the 5 laws of how somebody learns and whether you're going to be successful at teaching them something.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to apply it to customer service. Are you ready?
Okay.
Ready.
Okay.
All right. The first one is law of readiness. It says a learner cannot learn until they are ready to learn.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that is highly applicable to customer service, in that we have a funnel. You have a funnel when it comes to customers. And some customers might be ready for another smoothie in 2 days. Other customers might be ready for a smoothie in a month. And so you have to, some people might, the law of readiness, some people are not ready to receive the message of, hey, come buy the smoothie. And you have to track that.
So the way I kind of interpret it is, you said, first law of learning, you can't learn until you're ready to learn.
Until you're ready to learn.
So I'm like, I can't provide a great experience and support my customers until I'm see the value in that.
Yeah. That too. You can't learn from your own operational mistakes until you're ready to do that. That's something that I feel a lot, where I will go, you know what? I'm going to focus on this. I'm not going to worry about this. I know
the ego aside.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, after your ego takes so many hits, you go, okay, I'm ready to.
You either are just a learner or you get beat down.
Yeah, you go, all right, you win. I'm ready to learn from my mistakes.
Or you never learn and you just go out of business.
All right, very good. The next law of learning is the law of exercise, which says that the concepts that you repeat the most frequently are the ones that are most embodied, that the ones that you learn the best.
So I kind of, I mean, I could apply that in so many different ways, but it's like the law of repetition, right? Or like, I look at it 2 different ways. One, I look at it as a business owner, I told myself in my head many things, and what I told myself usually became the reality, right? So being aware of how you're speaking to yourself, that's one way, right? So that you are growing and you're building, not beating yourself down.
Mm-hmm.
And
I have another. I think that's a great.
I got another one, but go ahead.
No.
You're up.
Well, the way I think that's applicable is that I've certainly been to, let's use a restaurant where the pickup counter works exceptionally smoothly. And I come in and always have my food ready and it's always right. However, the rest of the restaurant is very dirty. And they are exercising the takeout counter procedure very well. And it's making me go, oh, you know what? If I go here, I'm going to get fast, hot, fresh, correct food. But I do not want to take a date to this place because it's dirty all the time. So sometimes you have to sometimes you may think that you need to make a trade-off, but it's entirely possible that you could be exercising one procedure way too much and letting another muscle group atrophy. And I think that as business owners, you have to do a full body workout. You have to say like, all right.
Well, I was going to relate it to like advertising, right? The message you put out there, you've got to repeat that message over and over and over so that the customer digests it, right? They don't hear it once and that's it. You've got to push that narrative, repeat it.
Yeah, you can't just do one. It's exercise because you're doing reps. You're like, practicing.
Yeah, and I think you have to be consistent. If you're not consistent, people will pick an arbitrary piece of their experience with you because we want to pattern recognize. We want to sum this experience up into something. And so if I don't have that repetition, who knows what I'm going to pick out of that?
Yeah.
All right. The law of primacy. So that which is learned first is learned best.
Interesting. That is learned first is learned best.
Interesting. Now, not to be confused with the band Primus.
That's what I first thought of. I'm like, how did they make it into the law of learning?
Yeah, and then
laws of learning.
That does make sense because whenever you are learning, you're stacking things on top of each other. You're saying, all right, I'm going to learn the fundamentals first, and that is, in basketball you learn dribbling, and you say because that's the base. You need to dribble to get around the court. And then you build on top of that and on top of that. And if you start with the top thing, then you won't have a good foundation. So I think that's that's an accurate assessment just in terms of foundational knowledge in running things and saying, all right, so what am I going to learn first? Well, I'm going to learn that you need to have, revenue minus expenses equals profit. And if I don't have profit, I need to increase revenue or decrease expenses. And so that's, I've learned that, and then I can build on top of that. If you get too far into the weeds on other stuff, it can be easy to forget those fundamentals. That's how I can kind of interpret that.
Yeah. I'm like, this one's confusing me a little bit, but I'm kind of thinking whatever you perceive as valuable and where you spend your time is kind of what you learn. Doesn't mean it's always right, but I don't know. I would be curious to see what you think.
So I would say, especially with related customer service, this has to do with first impressions matter.
Yeah, there you go.
It's your first impression.
I knew I was
going to set the tone. It is what is going to make the difference.
Love that. I forgot we were related back to customer service.
Yeah.
But no, that's perfect.
And learning wise, it is hard to unlearn stuff.
Yeah.
Once you learn how to do something, somebody comes along and says, "Oh, do it this way." You're like, "Wait, that's not what I learned the first time." So
yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense because say you go to a new restaurant, the first experience is negative. That's going to stick with you. But say you've gone a few times, you had great customer experience, then you get a negative one. You're like, okay, that was maybe weird. I'll go back. And again, the service is great. You're going to forgive them. But if that first one is negative, that's going to be your impression of that restaurant or that business. 100% is going to stick with you.
It's hard to unlearn this negative experience.
Yep. Okay. Law of intensity, that a learning experience that has more emotion in it or is more exciting helps you better learn the lesson.
Well, I feel like in customer service, this is like, does the business, do you feel that they care, right? Like, is it like, okay, sure, okay, sorry about that, we'll do this, or is it like, oh my gosh, they make you feel like they care. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, also the inverse, negative intensity, where if you were at a restaurant, and I was at a restaurant recently, and there was an all-you-can-eat situation. Or I will say, it was one of those like hot pot or Mongolian grill. I don't know what we call it. The Japanese
Mongolian grill. Yeah.
And so I had made slightly more meat than I could eat. It was not a lot. It was just like a handful of meat. And I was like, oh, darn it. I don't want this to go to waste, but I understand that these places can't have to go containers. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to kind of like come say like, totally understand if I can't take this to go, but am I able to do that or something? And the person like kind of snapped, and they were like, well, we have to go containers for $17. I'm like, okay, got it. And so it was a situation where I was kind of bringing an energy of saying like, I don't need a yes to this, and here's where I am as a customer. And their response was, I'm not dealing with this, and and so
They made you feel what they were feeling. Just it was on the wrong side.
And I'll bet that server's experience, their earliest experiences with that was somebody saying, I want a to-go box. And they'll say, well, we have one for $17. And they said, what do you mean $17? I can't believe. And that's what they were expecting. That's what they learned.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So it becomes this vicious cycle where it's like, I was kind of hoping, the intensity of that situation, I was kind of hoping for them to say, sorry, we can't do it. It's just a policy. And I would have been like, totally understand. But their interpretation of this is, I need to prison rules. I need to right at the top say, no, absolutely not. And it's like, okay, fine.
I'm going to give you something here.
Please.
It's a little piece of advice. It's going to blow your mind. Always bring somebody who carries a purse.
A meat purse.
A meat purse. That's right. Then you have your own to-go bag at any given time.
Stuff it in there.
Yeah.
Smart.
All right.
Is that why fanny packs?
That was law of intensity.
Okay.
All right. Last law, number 5, law of disuse.
Ooh.
So it's kind of the opposite of exercise. If you haven't been working on a concept for a long time, the further away you get from it, the less likely you're going to remember it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this one's pretty obvious. It's just like, if you don't practice good customer service, it's not gonna happen. I don't know. I mean, like, where am I missing here?
I think the scariest thing is how easy it is to let things atrophy and to go, all right, I've been really focused on this thing, and my skills at updating my Google profile have atrophied. Or I've been spending so much time working on this customer satisfaction form that my skills at upselling have atrophied. So if you're correct. It's the inverse of exercise. If you let something sit and you ignore it for a while, then whatever you learned is not going to matter.
Well, I feel like Chick-fil-A they're an example of customer service. They have great customer service. And I feel like leadership there makes it a priority, right? Like, it is something that they're constantly reminded and trained on.
But I will say, the longer I go from having a Chick-fil-A meal, the less visceral that it is. And I don't, because sometimes you go into Chick-fil-A and love them or hate them. If you love them, like when you get that super hot, fresh nugget or sandwich, or it is really, really good. And you're like, oh yes. And it's a very intense moment, right? Law of intensity. Then as time goes by, I'm like, yeah, Chick-fil-A, I like that. 2 weeks later, I'm like, yeah, it's okay. Well, let's go to Whataburger. And you forget it. So if I'm reminded from a customer service perspective, if the app has a notification, if I get an offer, if I get something, just, hey, email, remind me. That's what brings, oh God, I do. That wasn't that long ago, but boy, it was good. And then I go back and reinforce it.
Hey, Eric, remember what it feels like to put our sandwich in your mouth and it's warm and okay,
we already did the love episode. Yeah, we have moved on to learning.
I do have to say, and this is, I respect a lot of things what Chick-fil-A does, but I still think there is so much variance between locations. I've been to some Chick-fil-A.
Controversial.
Yeah, I've been to some Chick-fil-A that the chicken breast is just way too hard. It's just too
Interesting.
too tough. I've been to some that the lemonade has way too much pulp in it. I don't know how much the
72 grams. That's how much pulp you're supposed to.
Well, you can tell though. I mean, yeah, sure. There's going to be some discrepancies, but overall, you can tell companies that really value customer service, right? Like, I feel like Starbucks is kind of in that line. You know what I mean? But then compared to some of maybe I don't want to name names, but there's some fast food burger places where it's really fallen off the cliff. You know what I mean? They obviously aren't putting a big emphasis on it, right? Maybe they're yeah. So
I think what we've really covered is talking about how, if you want to take it, think about how you were as a student. Think about, did you enjoy the material? Are you something that really got in there and did it all the time? Is something that turned me off? Why is that? Because that same psychology really applies to the way you treat your customers and what they're going to remember. Because customer service at the end of the day is teaching. It's teaching somebody who you are and reminding them of that and trying to reinforce it.